So we're going to move on now to Emily, who's going to talk about some research that you can get involved in this autumn.
Thank you. Hi, as James has said, I'm Emily, and thank you very much for having me here today to talk about my research project. I'm a master's student at Cardiff University in genetic and genomic counselling. So I'm here to introduce my dissertation research study to you, which I will be working with the Aniridia Network for. And I'll be recruiting participants for the research around September and October time this year, although that's when recruitment will open, but it will continue on throughout into the new year. This slide just contains some information about my study. The red square to the right of the slide is just the Cardiff University logo. Study participants are needed for an academic research project, which will explore the attitudes of individuals living with aniridia towards using the internet and social media to access information about aniridia and to connect with others who share similar experiences. Participating in this study will involve an approximately 60-minute audio recorded online interview with open-ended questions about how you use the internet and social media in relation to aniridia. It will focus on your experiences, feelings, and opinions about internet and social media use. So it's hoped that the information provided will improve understanding of the motivations that drive internet and social media use by people with aniridia and identify any unmet needs to provide a basis for service development in the future. So my details follow on the slide, and these are Emily Sterling, MSc Genetic and Genomic Counselling at Cardiff University Centre of Medical Education. If you have any questions or for more information about the study, feel free to contact me by email, which is on the slide. The email is sterling, spelled Sterlinger, at cardiff.ac.uk. So for this study, I will be recruiting adults aged 18 plus affected by aniridia to take part in the study, and participation in the study is entirely voluntary. Both text and audio forms of information about the study will be sent by email to anyone who expresses interest in taking part in the study. And if you have any questions about the study, I'm very happy to answer any questions now, or feel free to email me.
Brilliant, thank you. Does anyone have any queries or?
Okay, I'll ask a question, James, please, if I can. Hi, Emily. My name's Paul. I have aniridia. I may be interested, but what sort of format will it take? Will it be just an interview or?
One interview, approximately 60 minutes long. It might not take a whole hour, but that's sort of the time I'm allowing for the interview. And it will just be based on a series of questions about different topics. The questions won't be closed questions. You'll be encouraged to expand on different things that you think, feel, experience about using the internet and social media in relation to aniridia. For the research part of it, what I'll be doing is transcribing the interview from an audio recording. So I won't take a video recording, but during the interview, I will record sort of your verbal contribution.
Okay.
It will then be transcribed, anonymized, and sort of the data will be pulled from the different interviews and comparing for similar themes and patterns that emerge as the research goes on. Does that answer your question?
It does, yeah. I mean, the only concern I had was that whilst I use the internet quite a bit, I don't really do much social media and that sort of thing. So I didn't know whether I'd be applicable or not, because I don't have wide experience of that. But as a person with aniridia, I use the internet quite a bit.
Yes, that's absolutely fine. I think working with the trustees, it's very much to find out how people use the internet and or social media. So definitely doesn't have to be one or the other. We're just interested in people's sort of lived experience, with the hope that actually if a lot of people come forward and say they just use the internet, they don't use social media, then that might help the Aniridia Network to target most appropriately what they're putting onto the internet.
Yeah, and I think it probably will be very mixed, because it depends on your age group, I think, because generally speaking, younger people, they just are naturally geared up towards social media, whereas someone that's a bit older like myself probably is not so engaging with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Any other questions?
Yeah, I just was wondering what is the ages that you're looking at?
Originally, I was looking at a 18 to 34, but that's now been scrapped. I'm now looking at anyone over the age of 18, and I think that will be helpful. I will not be asking for date of births or anything, but I will be asking participants if they don't mind sharing what age categories they fall into, so that we will have an awareness of if people are answering, yes, I use a lot of social media, yes, I use a lot of internet, I use a combination of the two, we'll hopefully be able to link that through the different age categories. And again, depending on who comes forward, be able to know what's best to target for different age groups, because there will be different needs depending on different age groups. So yes, to answer your question, anyone over the age of 18 will be eligible to participate in the study.
All right, yeah, okay. No, I only wondered because my daughter's 16, but she uses things like Snapchat and Instagram, she has Android, but it's not so much Facebook and those kind of things. It's much more kind of, I suppose, very visualized based social media, whereas I use a variety of social media, but I'm not so much into the ones that she uses.
Unfortunately, I did originally want 16 plus, but it's quite difficult to get the ethics approval for anyone who isn't considered an adult.
Yeah.
Maybe we will fall sort of 18 to 25 or something. If we have some of those people coming forward, we will manage to capture that data. But you're very right, it will vary significantly depending on age category.
Any other questions? John, you've unmuted.
I was just going to ask it specifically about using the internet or social media to access Anavideo information rather than how you use these things with Anavideo.
Yeah, that's the idea. So it might be that it's a very information-based use. It might be that it's a connection use. So it's really trying to find, I guess, the motivations that people with Aniridia have for using the internet and social media, in the hope that that will kind of help to target what's put onto the internet and social media most appropriately. And that might even be for people who have children. Their needs will be different. They might be looking more into what help and what information is applicable to their children rather than their own condition that they've grown up with for years and feel they understand. And they might have a need for connection, but they might not have a need for information, but then that might change. So yes, it's very broad.
I think what is important to recognise, and I said in the chat room, it would be important for Aniridia Network to be like a facilitator of information. And one of the other participants alluded to the fact of pushing information out, because fully sighted people could, for example, go onto MSN and just scan down very quickly and see articles and think, right, I'll read that. But for a visually impaired person, it takes so long to drill down with screen readers and that to find any information. You kind of lose interest before you get to anything you're interested in. So it's always much better if you fed the information through a facilitator that grips your information there straight away to say, oh, there's an article I'd love to look at.
That's a fantastic point. That's exactly what this study is looking to capture, so that it's sort of written down and we have that evidence base for that's potentially what the Aniridia Network should be producing. So yes, that's a fantastic point. Thank you.
Yeah, this is why we're really interested in working with Emily on this stuff. And there is another student who's kind of coming along as well, who's looking to do another different study next year. And so we're looking forward to that as well. So yeah, exactly. All of these kind of points are things that you'll have the opportunity to say during these research sessions as and when they're advertised and then take place. Are there any other questions about any of the logistics of it before we move on?
How will the interview be conducted? Will it be over the phone or via email conversation?
That's a great question. So it will be through Zoom. The audio recording will take place through Zoom for people who want to participate. There's a lot of information about how the data will be handled and secured and that kind of thing, but that will be sent out for anybody who gets in touch with me about taking part in the research. That will all be available, but it will be through Zoom.
And will that be a one-to-one, Emily, so it's private?
Yes, yeah, private. It will just be me. And like I say, all of the transcript will be anonymized and everything should be secure and anonymous.
So to clarify, Aniridia Network will only see the results of this. We won't see the transcripts and things like that, is my understanding. We will see the combined results of the study.
The kind of key findings of the study I will produce for the Aniridia Network in lay-friendly terminology. So you will have those and you will be able to access the full study as well if you so wanted to read a very long dissertation. But if you don't, which I wouldn't blame you, there will be the key findings that will be made available to the Aniridia Network for anyone interested.
One thing I would like to see within the interview is that you tell us what currently is the research or the academic thinking or something like that. So it gives participants like me to give maybe a critical review of that and say why that might work, why that might not work, rather than just extracting all the information from myself. That, you've got to think on your feet with sometimes basic questions, but anything that's there now that you could critique positively or negatively.
So there is a literature review element to the study, and there isn't much about aniridia specifically and internet use and social media use, but there is more general stuff about visual impairment, use of the internet and social media, and connection via online resources. So there is something like that. So that's interesting. That's something you're interested in, and that's good to know. Thank you. I will see what works in terms of building things into the interview.
Yeah. So you had your hand up for a while.
Yes. I was also have a question. Basically, is will you also be going into like how data gathering and algorithms with search engines change our view of accessing information as well? How data is used and used on us, basically searching for information, but like with these things with like search engines, we're using algorithms to just basically think what they think is best for us rather than what we as need. Would you probably be going into that as well?
That's a great question. So there is an access element that I am interested in finding out your views and opinions on. I mean, I'm a bit biased, but I think the nice thing about this study is that it is very open. There will be a general question that you will be able to answer with whatever you feel is important to you. And if that is something that is important to you and how you feel about accessing information or connecting with other people online, then that is something that you would be very welcome to share in that interview.
That's a really good point, because you can collect as much data as you like, but if you put that into quality or meaningful information, it's worthless.
Okay, we need to move on to our next speaker. So if you do have any other questions, then do get in touch with Emily. Thank you very much, Emily. Looking forward to working with you more and potentially taking part in the interviews themselves. So thank you.
Participant recruitment advert. Participants sought for research exploring the attitudes of adults living with aniridia towards using the internet and social media in relation to their condition. We are looking for adults aged 18 plus affected by aniridia to take part in a study which will interview participants with the aim of exploring how they use and feel about using the internet and social media to access information about aniridia and connect with others who share similar experiences. Participating in this study will involve taking part in one approximately 60-minute audio-recorded online interview. The interview will be structured using open-ended questions, allowing participants the opportunity to describe their own thoughts, experiences, and opinions in detail about internet and social media use relating to aniridia. The study aims to improve understanding of the motivations that drive internet and social media use and identify any unmet needs, providing a basis with which to inform future service developments. For more information about this study or to volunteer as a participant, please contact the Principal Researcher, myself, Emily Sterling, MSc student at Cardiff University in Genetic and Genomic Counselling. The project is supervised by Professor Marion McAllister, Programme Director of the MSc in Genetic and Genomic Counselling at Cardiff University Centre for Medical Education. You can contact myself, Emily Sterling, using the email address sterlinger@cardiff.ac.uk. The spelling of this email is sterlinger@cardiff.ac.uk. This study has been reviewed by and received a favourable ethical opinion from Cardiff University's Research Ethics Committee.